Hello, everyone. My name is Lori Ann Minoff. I am a local network president down in Broward County for Women's Council of Realtors. I am joined today with 2014 past national president, Jo Kenney. Thank you so much for being here today.
Good morning. Thank you for asking me, Lori.
Of course. So wanted to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you better.
Well, just the brief highlights. I've been a licensed realtor for 26 years. I'm a long-term Atlanta, Georgia resident, and probably 37, coming on 37 years. My husband and I have lived here. Um, I am active at the NAR level and state level, not so much at the local level this year, but I'm always available to help and volunteer when people need me. So real estate has been a terrific career for me. It's my third career, and I'm looking forward to having it be my last career.
What were some of the other careers? Because I've been hearing this from other past national presidents as well.
Oh, very, very unusual. My educational background is in fine arts and art history. I spent a good amount of time in the retail world on the design side, from designing shops and windows to working for a manufacturer who designed and built custom props and furniture. That's when I lived in New York City. And then I evolved into a business that I developed that centered around designing Christmas decor programs for shopping centers all over the country. So I've traveled extensively to different market areas and know a lot of different shopping centers. And it was a great career. I had a client that allowed me to do whatever I could dream of. They gave me the money, so it was great. And when that ended, when that client sold out to another developer, I got my real estate license because I wanted to have control of the rest of my career. And I figured as long as I could drive, I could be a realtor.
Love it. Love it. All right, well, let's get right into it. So, as a
Sure.
past national president of Women's Council of Realtors, what would you say are some of the major contributions you made to the organization during your tenure?
Well, when you talk about tenure, and it's not just the year that I was president, because I served on the executive committee for 2 years prior to getting on the leadership team. And then I served on executive committee for another 3 years afterwards. So when you're on the team for that long, you're involved in lots of different initiatives. I think there were two important things that happened the year that I served as president, and the year following was started a beta test for the chapter to network model that the council had. Now, new members probably don't even remember that we were chapters. And we had a structure and a system and a series of requirements that were pretty extensive, that we asked our members and our leaders at the local level to complete. And so the chapter to network model reduced, took away some of the confinement of those roles, those responsibilities. It changed the direction to be more member focused. And the beta test that we launched the year, we approved it the year that I was president. It launched the next year when Linda Lee was president for the state of California. Now, California was chosen because they had something like 38 chapters, and they ranged everywhere from really small rural areas to large chapters like San Diego that were mega chapters. And so we thought we would have all the different difficulties and represent a broad array of opportunities and scenarios to test. And it was quite a dramatic year in 2015 when they actually started it. So I believe it was 2015. Again, the years start running together. So, but that was probably one of the most significant things that happened that year. The other major thing for me was that our CEO retired in September. Great timing.
Mhm.
And so I was the chair for the search committee. And we worked through March, I believe, to find Jeff Hornberger and bring him on board. And that was an incredible process. And Jeff was such a great addition to the council and our future planning. And so it was a real privilege and honor to share that role with the other members of the leadership team.
Wow. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. But at least, when you talk about having like a lasting legacy on the organization till today, which is a great thing. How would you describe your overall leadership style, and how do you think it differed from some of your predecessors?
Well, I don't know that I've ever compared my style to anybody else's, so I have a hard time answering the question that way. I'm a team player, I'm a consensus builder, and I always want to make sure everybody at the table has an opportunity to voice their opinion, because I know there's always an alternate opinion that may in fact be just as good as mine. So we try to entertain all those opinions, and that's kind of the way my style works.
Love it. So, but besides having to now find a CEO or be on the searching for a new CEO, what other types of challenges did you face during your presidency, and how would you say you addressed them?
I don't think we had any, there were the occasional local issues that happened, lawsuits, embezzlement, you never knew.
Right.
But for the most part, the challenge was making sure that we were in touch with all the members, and that came through working with all of our liaisons at the state level. And at that time, another initiative we had talked about for several years, and it finally recently came to pass, we had 9 regions. And for those members who were not around then, they probably find that amazing. But we really had 9 different areas that had their own local regional leadership. We always wanted to confine that down to the 3 regions that we currently have. It took a while. It took some rejection by members a couple of times, I believe, before we finally got it to work. And that in itself is a new model. Now you have this different structure. How do you what's the job description for these people who are assuming those leadership roles? And because it was a whole new approach for us. So I was well out of the leadership team by the time that was happening. But it's been real interesting to watch that develop.
What do you think were some of the members' reasons behind not being open to it? Because I think it took about 10 years or more to even have just like conversation to getting it to come to fruition. So, what do you think were some of members' biggest challenges with it?
Change.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty much.
People don't like change. Plus, people don't like their leadership opportunities to be diminished. And when you're going from 9 to 3, you're taking away 6 leadership roles. So that was probably one of the most vocal complaints. I think that there was a consensus from those that were not in favor, was that you were looking at really, really large geographic areas that had no similarities or synchronicity. If you're the West Coast was, wow, from little New Mexico all the way up to Oregon, Washington, and everything in between was very different. Or the East Coast, which, I mean, we're talking about the South and the Northeast. So the difference between something in Florida and what's going on in Maine or Rhode Island is very, very different
Right.
markets. And so there was a challenge with that.
Right. So what was your vision for the future of the council back then, and have you seen it play out in today's terms of influencing current programs, policies, priorities? I mean, you touched on some of this already, but if you want to elaborate any more.
Well, I think historically you need to understand that from the time that I initially got involved with the council up through the year that I was president, I sat on two strategic planning cycles. And I started it from the point where we got the new logo, which we still have, um, to involvement of several vision and mission statements. And the one we currently use has been around. It was a good solid hit because it still functions and still describes the council perfectly. So to say what I've been involved in has been a slew of initiatives that have come out of 5-year strategic planning cycles, 3-year planning cycles, and the goals have been pretty much accomplished. Uh, some esoteric descriptions to some of those goals were to really give the council uh, a seat at the table at NAR, to really get them to recognize that we were building leaders, we were growing leaders, we were training leaders. And when I first came in, that was not widely recognized or lauded. By the time I came into the presidency, there were a couple of reasons that we're starting to get recognition. And the number one reason was RPAC, because we became significant investors in RPAC, and it was finally being acknowledged. That was one thing I did that year, is I asked them to put together some numbers, because I kind of knew it, and I knew we had been talking about it since Bobby Nelson was president. It was a big deal for her. And so I wanted to see, where were we? What had we really put together? And the numbers were staggering. And the fact that we had to go to NAR to put the numbers together, they were surprised. So that was when it finally came full circle and said, okay, here's something that's really important that we've achieved, and we continue going forward. We continue having that strong voice. We're the number one Institute Counselor Society in terms of investment in our PAC. I think we're at 73% typically, and the others are around 28, 30%. So we have a lot to be proud of with that.
Yeah, and this is such a timely conversation as well, because last week we ended up having, at our local network, we had our Blue Diamond pinning, and we had, it was an advocacy educational opportunity, and had the ability to kind of run through some of those numbers and some of those stats, and our members were surprised and shocked. So
Mhm.
it was really great if we can kind of continue to get that messaging out there. And one of the other kind of interesting elements of it was that we've only more recently had a conversation, seat at the table with regard to advocacy, which is exactly what you're talking about. So I don't think many of us were even aware of that. I think they had been thinking it had been going on for so many years, but that wasn't the case.
No, it was. And in a lot of cases, it started with those of us who were working at a local level. And that was not always a good relationship. I was very fortunate. My local association, we did a lot of work together. They were very supportive of the council. We were supportive of the association activities, education programs, and so there was a symbiotic relationship we had that was really wonderful. Not every association had that, because there are a lot of AEs and CEOs in those days. And I'm sure there still are some out there that felt like the council was in competition with them. That we had our sponsors, our supporters, and so maybe we were taking away
Mhm.
sponsorship from the council, or
Yeah.
we were doing education programs that were in competition with theirs. Well, in our case, we weren't. We were doing everything together, and I think that finally that grows up to the state level, and then it gets to the national level. And now we have a significant seat at the table at NAR, and very proud of those numbers. And I love looking at those numbers every year. And when I asked those numbers to be put together, it was the beginning of my year. I hate to call it my year, the year that I started to travel as president, because I wanted to share that with members that I was
Right.
meeting with around the country. So that became a significant part of my message, that we had a legacy that we were building and we should be proud of, and everybody needed to be involved with. So
Yeah. It's so true. It's such an important conversation, especially as it continues to connect with our industry, because there's just so many moving parts to it. There's so many things that need change, and in order to have a seat at the table, you kind of have to make sure that you're having these conversations with your members to understand the importance of it. It's not just about asking to kind of advocacy is, there's so many moving parts, or there's so many pieces to advocacy, and how do people play that? How does an individual play a part in that, and making people kind of helping to people to understand that, I think goes a
yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah.
So we're going to move on to mentorship, as like the hashtag above your head says, leaders made here. And part of, kind of growing as a leader is also helping other people in their journey as well. So mentorship plays an enormous role. So what impact do you believe your mentorship has had on council's members, fostering growth and development?
Well, I have to start with my mentors, and I had a lot of hands up. I had a lot of people, behind me, pushing me, pushing me, uh, and the support, the encouragement, the confidence that my mentors gave me is how I ended up where I ended up. Um, I had wonderful mentors at the local level that got me involved in the council, and at national. I mean, Margot Willis was one of my very, very strongest mentors. Gail Hartnett, um, both very dear friends. Unfortunately, we miss Margot tremendously, but when I first came on the line, she was my president.
Mhm.
So I had the honor of serving with her for a year, and I was like the little kid that wanted to hide in the corner, and she was always helping me, encouraging me to come out and be part of the team. Um, I think that Bobby Nelson was another encouragement to me, and I know a lot of people don't know Bobby, but that was actually the worst thing I had to do the start of 2014 was attend her service in California. And there were a lot of past presidents there, but Bobby had a significant impact on the council, and definitely on me and my leadership path. I believe strongly that our job is to replace ourselves. Our job is to always be looking out for potential leaders who may not know it, many times don't know it, that they have the skills and the wherewithal
Yeah.
to be impactful. Tapping them on the shoulder. I have a pretty good legacy, including Tammy Knoll, who's one of my girls, as I call him. Chris Lee was one of my girls. It's important for us always to recognize that our job is to replace ourselves and to be a model. And that's one thing I often tell people. If you're interested in leadership or not, somebody's watching you. And as a leader, you always have to remember that you're being watched at all times. That became very much a motto for me when I was traveling, because I realized you never know who's in airports. I'd be going, oh, I saw you at the Denver airport. Oh, okay. I didn't know you were in line with me. So
That's great.
anyway, it's a gift, but it's also a responsibility, because you're a model
Right.
and people are watching. I hope that
It's
answered it.
It did. And it's interesting that you brought up Chris Lee, because when you talked about doing the AE search, I was thinking about those meetings that we sat through. And Chris Lee had the same kind of, she
Mhm.
had the same kind of type of task. I feel like during her presidency as well. So it's funny
Yeah.
that you ended up, I'm sure you were a great resource to her during, during those times for her, for the term.
I did not get involved at all. I thought every uh, CEO search is different and the parties are all different. So I was very excited about how it ended up and looking forward to working with Amanda. So, but it's a daunting and awesome responsibility.
Right, right. So how would you say that some of your earlier experiences at the local level, and you addressed some of those before, have shaped your approach to national campaigns? I mean, you said you were fortunate enough at the local level, but how would you some of those like key skills or any of those things that you want to address on how it helped you in your decision making or even on your leadership
Mm.
journey?
Well, I think at the local level, I'm going to consider my local and state because I was one of those people who quickly got involved in leadership, and I was quickly, involved at the state level. Um, so it was a circular participation that allowed me to see how they quickly learn how the, the council worked, learning the benefits and being able to share those benefits was really an important job early on. And just watching, I spent a lot of time watching leaders, and I started traveling national meetings early on, and so was able to watch a lot and observe how other people's leadership styles. I don't think that I ever sat down and made a list of how I wanted my leadership style to look like. I just generally, it just comes from me wanting to have consensus with everybody. So
Love it.
nothing really specific.
Okay. So looking back over your journey from, again, like you were touching on the local involvement to national leadership, what key lessons would you say current members could learn from your experiences?
Some of what I've already shared, your responsibility is to identify, support, encourage others. You, not everybody needs to have a title. Not everybody needs to ascend to up the ladders of leadership. Participation and being involved doesn't have a title. Everybody needs to feel like they are part of something. And so reaching out to members with the intention of getting them involved and participating and letting them have that value is really important. And recognizing some people don't want to be leaders. Some people, the most they ever want to do is sit at the table at the entrance to the function and sign people in. To them, that's like perfect.
Yep.
They get to meet everybody and see who everybody is. And that's about as much as they want to do. You need to understand what the members want out of their involvement. I don't know if we still have it, but there used to be a questionnaire, and it was involved with the whole task is to ask approach. What are you looking for
Mhm.
in your membership here? And really focusing on those answers and say, okay, how do we work with Mary Jane to help her have this experience that she says she wants to have here? And it comes down to a very personal one-on-one relationship that the local leadership needs to have a responsibility for.
And it's such an interesting point too, because I kind of feel like there's so many different organizations out there, even relating to real estate. A lot of different types of strategic partners or companies have their own educational classes. So, like, what kind of sets Women's Council apart, and what do if members are joining? What kinds of things do they are going to keep them engaged? What are the things that are going to help them kind of continue to commit to the mission of growing the network and being able to kind of bring
Mhm.
people to the table. So it is kind of, you're saying, like a symbiotic relationship between all of those parts, and understanding, the value of the organization, and what sets Women's Council apart from other organizations.
That sense of belonging is really brings a lot of um, connection to members. Because when you feel like you belong to something, you want to support it, you want to be involved with it. Uh, it's a You just don't get that everywhere.
Yeah.
And part of that the council is so good at is the relationships. Um, I would say that's the number one benefit that I have had over the years is the relationships that I've been able to build. And some of my best friends in my life are women's council members. And that's invaluable. We used to have a directory, the hard copy directory. They say you drive around the country with that in your back seat. I know that really dates us, right? But I always have known this. No matter if I got stuck anywhere in the country, I could find somebody that would come and help me as a member of the council. And I think that's true for all of us.
Love it. It is so true, because the relationships. Well, I feel like there's relationships. So even during this year, as local presidents, within like the state of Florida, let's say, we've connected with so many of them. We're all in the trenches together. We share ideas. So it's building those relationships where you are, not only on the business side of just Women's
Mhm.
Council at large, but then even in your own experience, like on the in your on in whatever level you're serving at, you can still find that connectivity and people that you just never know where those friendships and when those relationships can end up going into the future. So to know and hear over and over and over again by so many of these past national presidents that they can still are close, they still consider themselves great friends, they've met great friends, it is so encouraging.
Yeah, yeah. Some of my best friends.
I love it. So kind of as we close out our time here, wanted to give you an opportunity to share any sage words of wisdom, or if I knew then what I knew now type of moments, that you would like to share with members.
Well, I think I've done some of it. One of the things that Margot taught me, and I hold on to that as well as the journal she gave me when I was installed, said Carpe Diem. It's
Mm,
enjoy the journey. That's the destination, is being on the journey. And that's just a whole life lesson, not just with the council, but you, when you're in your leadership, growth and pattern, enjoy every step of the way, enjoy all the people, all the relationships, all the occurrences, both pleasant and unpleasant. And it's all part of the journey. As I said before, know that you're always being watched, because that shouldn't be a scary thing. It should
no.
be like a sense of responsibility that you are a model, whether you like it or not. um, I, those are probably two of the most important things. Be open to change. Be open to flexibility. There's always a different way. It may not be a better way for you, but as long as we keep our eyes open and our ears open and our mouths closed, we have great opportunities to learn.
Right.
The council is the bedrock of your your emotional connections with members, but also with your business. And I think that's important to remember that we all share that whole connection with the business.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
No, I love it. And I can't thank you enough for this opportunity to get to know you better, for members to get to know you better, to really kind of, and I feel like one of the elements that we've heard from other national presidents as well, past national presidents, is just leadership being tangible to to members. And I feel like this gives a glimpse and an opportunity to help members connect with you. So I really do appreciate your time today. Again, 2014 past national president Jo Kenney, thank you so much for your time, and we truly appreciate the opportunity to really kind of grow, continue to kind of grow the organization and be able to have that ability to know that we always have people that are willing to help.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, and thank you, Lori. I look forward to meeting you in person.
Excellent. Thanks again.
Okay, bye now.
Okay, bye.